All right, everybody, we are officially at the finish line. Today should be the final day of draft prospects. I would consider making another video or two in about a week if there's some really interesting stuff that emerges from our top 30 visits, and there are some guys that I feel like need to be addressed, but more than likely, today's the last day. We're going to get through 4 videos, and then we're going to call it good. I've got 12 assorted draft prospects that, for one reason or another, are at least a little bit compelling, and I missed them the first time through. A good chunk of these guys that we're going to go over today are guys that the Seahawks have had a top 30 visit with. So if the Seahawks are meeting with them, then it makes sense that you would take a look at what they have to offer. And some of these guys are just guys that I missed who I think are going to be of pretty decent pedigree in the draft, and I think they're going to get drafted at a pretty not high level, but a reasonable level. I think they'll get drafted. So let's try to cover all our bases here. We're going to start with some stragglers on offense, and we're going to start with a quarterback. This is somebody we had in for a top 30 visit, John Rees Plumlee. So quarterback, like I said, played for UCF. He transferred to UCF, but most of his playing time was done at UCF. 23 years old when the season starts. He's a little bit small, 6 feet flat, 203 pounds, 30 and 3/8 arms, 8 and 7/8 hands. The thing that jumps out about Plumlee would be his testing. Ran a 4.5 which is elite for a quarterback. His vertical was elite for a quarterback, 94th percentile. His broad, elite for a quarterback. So he is a really good athlete for the position. And his 20-yard shuttle was a little above average too. So he has a lot of movement skills. And they show up on the field. Now, none of the big boards I found have him getting drafted. So I do think this is a guy we're looking at as either a 7th rounder to make sure we get him, or a UDFA that we're going to try to lure in. So keep expectations in mind here. Last 2 years, the numbers are mostly just whatever. 2,300 yards, 2,600 yards, completion percentage about the same, 63%. It's okay. Touchdown interception ratio is not all that great, but the rushing yards are pretty notable. Ran for almost 900 yards a couple years ago, ran for over 500 last year. So there is some stuff here that is at least worthy of getting our attention here, but is the product worth drafting? So the athleticism is there. Very productive rusher in college. He can run with speed and power. There's actually some stuff on tape of him being able to run through people and break tackles. He's got a good release. The ball comes out of his hand quickly. He doesn't have one of those long, looping, weird releases. He has a quick release. And he can release from multiple release angles. I think he used to play baseball. That probably helps. He's really accurate when throwing short. So he's somebody who can pick apart a defense underneath. He gets the ball out quickly, sometimes too quickly, but he does get the ball out of his hands fast. He's got an okay deep ball, and not only is he able to run for yards as a quarterback, he's also highly escapable in the pocket. So, good traits with Plumlee, but when you can get him off platform, when you can get him to panic under pressure, he makes a lot of mistakes. A lot of turnover-worthy throws when he gets pressured. He doesn't layer his throws very well. He's not very good at understanding how to feather in a ball. Everything just kind of comes out the same. So there isn't a lot of nuance to his throwing. His deep throws are not reliable. They're not bad, but they're not good either. They're just kind of maybe slightly above average. And I don't think it can be a big part of his game, especially in the NFL, with defenses really trying to take that away. And he doesn't seem to be very good at diagnosing defenses and making a decision based off his read. He's just kind of... He likes to be more 1 read or 2 reads, and then he takes off and runs. So there's a athletic profile here that is pretty interesting. You're not seeing things like this with the other quarterbacks in this class. These other quarterbacks in this class are not putting up numbers like this. He might be worth a very late pick, but when you look at all the limitations he has, I can't imagine him being an NFL quarterback. In fact, I've read some stuff, and I do wonder about this. He might be better off trying to move positions when he gets to the NFL. Maybe he'll be like a safety or something. So, priority UDFA, but a UDFA regardless. All right. Next guy is going to be Isaiah Williams. He's just a pretty decent, decently valued prospect that I missed the first time through. Illinois wide receiver, 23. He's small, 5'9", 182, short arms, almost 30, barely over 30-inch arms. The testing was mostly rough, although I will say this, he's got some explosiveness, and he does have good change of direction, but he is slow, which is tough to get over when you're this small. You're 5'9", and you're running a 4.63. So the big boards, PFF and CBS both have him in the top 200, 5th or 6th round. ESPN has him undrafted. Database has him getting drafted by the skin of his teeth, 255. A lot of production the last 2 years for Illinois. 164 catches, almost 1,800 yards, and 10 touchdowns. 11 drops, good PFF grades. So productive, but isn't going to translate to the NFL. He's a very feisty player. It's obviously you wouldn't compare him directly to Steve Smith, but some of the things he can do are almost Steve Smithian, where he can fight for a ball despite being undersized and be very physical and go up and get it, even though physically he should have no ability to. I mean, he does have good jumping ability, so it kind of makes sense that he can do that. He should be a good punt returner in the NFL. His skill set spells a pretty good punt returner. And he's got yak skills. So when you get Isaiah Williams in the open field, even though he's not fast in a straight line, he's elusive and gets extra yards because of it. He's a good route runner overall. He shifts gears well and mixes up his speed. So defensive backs have a harder time sticking with him. And his change of direction skills are really good. And that's going to allow him to shake defenders when he's in his routes. So he does have that going for him. Now, his routes aren't all great. I think his cuts are a little lazy, lackadaisical. He's not going to lose a lot of... I think his cuts need to get a little sharper, and they can. I think he's got the skill for it. I think it's just a technique thing. He drops the ball a fair amount. He's got 11 drops, which isn't terrible when you have this many catches. But he also has, like, muffed, I want to say, 3 punts over the last couple years. So he's got to get a little more secure with the ball. He's got a tiny catch radius. He's not going to be able to go outside and catch an off-target pass. I don't know if his speed's going to work. I mean, this is really slow. If this is reflective of what he's going to do in the NFL, I don't imagine how he cuts it in the NFL. So he'll probably be slot only in the NFL, and being this slow out of the slot with this kind of acceleration, not really doing it. So he might be a guy who was able to get by on his route running and his fight and his feistiness in the college ranks. But the NFL, it's just going to completely cut it off. That's kind of the feel I get. He is a pretty good athlete. There is a little bit of special teams value. I couldn't quite put him in the 7th round. This should be not, by the way, not another enough. But yeah, I couldn't quite put him in the 7th. I think he's a priority UDFA, and I honestly, you can find guys who are clearly better than this and have more upside than this, who are just like this in the 7th or 6th round. Get one of those guys instead of getting this guy as a UDFA and thinking he's gonna do something. So yeah, Isaiah Williams, UDFA, but he's close to being draftable in my estimation. Not totally against it. All right, guys, we got one more guy to take a look in this video. It's going to be an offensive tackle. This is a pretty interesting one. It's Ethan Driskell from Marshall. Couldn't find his age. 6'8", so he's tall. 313 pounds. He's got NFL size. Long arms, 35 and 3/8 inch arms, 10.5-inch hands. He's got, I mean, you could find an offensive lineman that looks like this at Alabama, and it wouldn't look that out of place. Now, he's not nearly good enough, but physically he looks the part, right? Big boards, quite a few have him getting drafted, actually. This is a guy who just slipped my notice. PFF, ESPN, and Walter Football all have him getting drafted at various points. Walter has him up in the 5th round. CBS undrafted. Database has him in like the late 6th, early 7th. Not very good numbers over the last couple years, and he's playing for Marshall, so not crazy excited about the actual production. Over the last 2 years, he's allowed 7 sacks, 6 QB hits, and 27 hurries playing for Marshall and getting slightly above average PFF grades. He's got massive hands that are also very strong, and he knows how to use them fairly well. He's very sticky once he latches on, So if he manages to engage his man and get his hands on him, really, really hard to shake him. Really, really hard to make a play after he latches onto you. So that's obviously something working in his favor. He's got a chance because he's got NFL size and length. He's tough to get around, right? Because the arms are so long. Even if you beat him, he's still got a chance because his arms are that long. So there's some nice stuff here. I'm not denying it. But he doesn't move very well at all. His movement skills are sluggish. He doesn't mirror pass rushers very well. His hand placement is imperfect, needs some work. I think he can get there, but right now it's not really where it needs to be. And he's not strong enough to hold up against bull rushers. So we do have some stuff he needs to work on here. And he doesn't really fit what we're trying to do because he doesn't move well, and he's never going to be able to move well. It's not like he's suddenly going to learn how to run faster. And he was leaky in Marshall. I don't think there's anything desirable here for the Seahawks. If you have maybe a very gap-based blocking scheme, maybe you could look at him as somebody to train over a year or two, but I think he's a pure UDFA, and for the Seahawks, he's not even worth a UDFA look. Might need to move to guard so his movement skills don't kill him, but even then, like, not going to be a good fit for zone. All right, so that's those three guys. See you guys in a couple of hours. We're going to have another couple of offensive stragglers to look at, and then we're on to the defense for the rest of the day. We are almost done, guys, I promise. Thank you for bearing with me. See you guys soon. Go Hawks.